Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
Sustain that industry. So if government does not have much money, they should find an enabling environment.
Now, what are these issues? The petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange, where we'll deal with everything that has to deal with business, finance, national issues, and the economy. I am Femi Ayodele. Today is a special day. It's a special day for the girl child. It's been dedicated to look at the plight of, the female folks and the girl child, to look at what can be done to give them voices and improve their welfare. Today we'll be looking at that. We're going to have discussion in that regard. And today we're also going to look at real estate. For those of you who are interested in investing in that sector, you need to stay with us for the next 3 hours for you to understand what it takes to start that kind of business, the opportunities, the challenges as well. Our resource persons, our analysts will be here to look at all these things today. And we hope that as you spend the next 3 hours with us, we're going to make your day worthwhile. All right, let's go on a short break now. When we return, we'll have proper discussion in that regard. Stay with us.
Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodun Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodun Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the Eko greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, Suk Enlightenment. Welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
Sustain that industry. So if government does not have much money, they should find an enabling environment.
Now, what are these issues? The petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad you have you joining us on Early Exchange. Once again, you know this show is all about shaping policy and advancing development. Now let's kick off the show with news update, and Blessing is standing by to take us through the world. Blessing, good morning. How are you today?
I'm very well, Femi. Good morning. Thank you for joining me on the Morning News Update and Sick News. I am Blessing AG. Let's begin with stories from Nigeria. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, is introducing 7 additional draft regulations to improve operational processes and foster a conducive business environment in line with the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA 2021. According to the Chief Executive Officer of NUPRC, Benga Komolafe, between June 2022 and July 2023, NUPRC successfully produced 12 regulations which have already been incorporated into law to bolster regulatory clarity within the upstream sector. The newly presented draft regulations cover various aspects including field development plans, compliance with petroleum development contracts, and procedures for handling post-revocation issues. Turning to education, the National Examinations Council (NECO) has officially released the results of the 2023 Internal Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination (SSCE) amid reports of examination malpractice involving 93 schools. The Registrar and Chief Executive Officer, Professor Dantani Ibrahim Wushishi, who made the announcement, noted that among the results, 61% of the candidates achieved 5 credits and above, including English and mathematics. In addition to the examination malpractice cases, Wushishi noted that 52 supervisors had been recommended for blacklisting due to their inadequate supervision, aiding and abetting during the examinations. A total of 1,196,985 candidates participated in the examinations, while 1,543 candidates with special needs also took part. In another development, about 100 civil servants in Cross River State Civil Service are facing disciplinary action for various misconduct, including truancy, absenteeism, dereliction of duty, and lateness to work. The state head of service, Innocent Iteng, announced this during his recent visits to several ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, in Calabar. Iteng, who assumed office just a week ago, expressed his dissatisfaction with the lax attitude of some civil servants and ordered heads of administration in several MDAs to query employees who were absent from their duty post during his visit, with responses due within 24 hours. The MDAs identified for potential sanctions include the State Ministry of Health, Lands and Survey, State Planning Commission, and Internal Revenue Services, among others. Now, in a bid to enhance traffic flow within the Yola City Center, the governor of Adamawa State, Amadu Umaru Fintiri, has officially commenced the construction of a flyover gulping estimated over 9 billion naira to span over a period of 18 months in Yola City and its adjoining streets. This initiative has signaled the advent of the third flyover in the city after the successful completion of 2 flyovers in 2021 and 2022, therefore addressing immediate traffic concerns and improving the quality of life for Adamawa State residents. After facing repeated delays, South Africa has unveiled its long-awaited master plan to develop the gas market aimed at reducing carbon emissions and prevent chronic power outages. According to a senior official at the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, DMRE, the plan, which will diversify the country's energy mix away from aging coal-fired power plants, will soon go to the cabinet for public release. The lack of a gas master plan had created regulatory uncertainty, particularly for projects like Total Energy's offshore gas development. The plan addresses the demand and supply of natural gas until 2050, with 3 scenarios, low, medium and high, highlighting the initial focus on gas-to-power projects and the need to transition from coal to gas for power generation. The gas master plan is set for public release by the end of December, marking a significant step toward transforming South Africa's energy landscape. Still in Africa, Angola is considering a more gradual removal of fuel subsidies to prevent a repeat of the deadly protest that occurred in June when petrol prices nearly doubled. Finance Minister Vera Daves de Souza revealed that internal discussions are ongoing about extending the end 2025 deadline for phasing out the subsidies. The move comes as governments across Africa grapple with the challenge of dismantling costly fuel subsidies, a decision that often sparks public discontent. Angola spent over $2.3 billion on fuel subsidies in 2022, which accounted for more than 40% of the country's estimated spending on social programs by the IMF. Zambia is approaching a decision on the sale of Mopani copper mines. The process, aimed at finding a new investor for these struggling copper mines acquired from Glencore in 2021, has faced delays due to intricate negotiations involving debt owed to Glencore. A unit of the Zambian government has presented investment proposals from companies such as CBN Stillwater, an investor from the United Arab Emirates with ties to international holding company, and China's Zijing Mining Group. The sale of Mopani copper mines is considered a crucial step by Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema to attract fresh investments to the nation, which is Africa's second-largest copper producer. Hichilema's objective is to increase copper production significantly as it plays a pivotal role in clean energy technologies and the growth of electric vehicles, aligning with Zambia's economic development strategy. Now let's turn it to the Middle East, where Emirates Development Bank, EDB, has reported significant progress in supporting food security projects since the launch of its new strategy in April 2021. EDB has approved over 721 million dirham in financial support for food security initiatives as part of its commitment to allocate 30 billion dirham to aid 13,500 SMEs across 5 priority sectors. Now, these sectors include manufacturing, renewables, technology, healthcare, and food security. According to the Chief Executive Officer of Emirates Development Bank, the bank's financing solutions in agri-tech loans support sustainable food systems and climate finance initiatives, reflecting the UAE's dedication to addressing food security challenges. Still in the Middle East, His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, chairman of the Dubai Border Security Council, has launched a public reporting platform for economic crimes. Their initiative seeks to increase community involvement in identifying and addressing crimes that negatively impact Dubai's economy, businesses, and the nation. The platform, part of the Economic Security Center of Dubai, allows citizens, residents, and visitors to report crimes such as money laundering, terrorism, financing, bribery, forgery, and embezzlement. His Highness emphasized Dubai's commitment to upholding international economic security standards and maintain its position as a global business hub. Now, away from the Middle East, England, Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Scotland and Wales will collaborate to host UEFA Euro 2028, while Italy and Turkey have been selected as the host for UEFA Euro 2032. This announcement came during a ceremony held at the UEFA headquarters in Lyon, Switzerland. The proposed venues for UEFA Euro 2028 include prominent cities such as Belfast, Birmingham, Cardiff, Dublin, Glasgow, Liverpool, London, Manchester and Newcastle. In addition, Germany is set to host UEFA Euro 2024, marking their second time hosting the championship since reunification and their previous hosting of the 1988 tournament. In another development, Arizona Republican Kari Lake, a staunch ally of former President Donald Trump, is set to announce her candidacy for the party's U.S. Senate nomination, potentially leading to a highly competitive three-way general election in November 2024. The Arizona Senate race has gained even more political significance after Senator Kyrsten Sinema declared herself an independent candidate in December, leaving her intentions for re-election uncertain. Democratic U.S. Representative Ruben Carligo, a liberal with combat experience from the Iraq War, is vying for the Democratic nomination, and the state Senate race is one of 8 competitive seats Democrats must defend in 2024 as they strive to protect their narrow Senate majority. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell has invited Israel's Foreign Minister Eli Cohen and the Palestinian Authority's counterpart Riyad al-Maliki to address an emergency meeting of the EU's foreign ministers. This meeting comes in response to the recent Hamas assault on Israel. While the EU strongly condemns the attack, it has sent mixed messages regarding its development aid to the Palestinians. Although initial statements suggested a suspension of payments, the European Commission clarified that payments were not suspended but under review to ensure they do not indirectly support terrorist organizations. Now, Germany has temporarily suspended its development aid to the Palestinians, while France opposes halting EU funds. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has stressed the need for cultural change within the World Bank to further mobilize private sector capital and address global challenges effectively. While acknowledging the progress made in reforming the bank's operations to tackle issues like climate change, Yellen stressed the necessity of internal process improvements and cultural shift to accelerate private sector engagement and responsible risk-taking. She called for concrete private capital mobilization targets and incentives for staff to meet them, expansion of lending and insurance instruments, and greater transparency in emerging market data to attract private sectors. Now let's turn it to the story where Ireland's 2024 budget has revealed plans to establish a sovereign wealth fund worth €100 billion while addressing current cost of living pressures. The surplus in the budget, a rarity in Europe due to increased COVID-19 spending, was primarily driven by a surge in Irish corporate taxes paid by a small number of foreign companies. Finance Minister Michael McGrath proposed legislation requiring the government to invest 0.8% of nominal GDP into the new Future Ireland Fund from 2024 to 2035, potentially growing it to around €100 billion by 2035. A smaller €14 billion infrastructure and a climate fund will also be established. McGrath has emphasized the importance of seizing the opportunity to create these funds. That's it on the Morning News Update. Thank you for watching. I am Blessing AHA. Please stay for more information on Early Exchange.
Welcome to Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
Sustain that industry. So if government does not have much money, they should find an enabling environment.
Now, what are these issues? The petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, it's time for news analysis now, and to provide a better perspective on the major headlines trending today, we're being joined by Sam Oruoje. Sam, glad to have you join us this morning.
Good morning, Femi. A pleasure to be here. Yeah. Good morning, Blessing.
Good morning, sir. Welcome
Blessing,
to the show. I'm good, Femi.
Yeah. The rain, almost changed the pattern of the day. But we're good. All right. So let's pick the first story. It has to do with oil and gas, and the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission is coming up with efforts to enhance the efficiency of the country's upstream oil and gas industry by introducing 7 additional draft regulations. One of the greatest or remarkable things done by the former president, with President Buhari, was to come up with, was able to sign the Petroleum Industrial Act, PIB, was able to sign it into law. Because over the years, experts have been clamoring for a proper, legal framework to regulate that sector. You will agree with me that the oil and gas sector in Nigeria is very sensitive. It's like our cash cow. And so, but for investors and international players to come into that space, there's need for proper regulation, which was why experts have been clamoring for that. So that was signed into law in 2021. But now the Regulatory Commission now is coming up with additional draft regulations to ensure that there's efficiency in that sector. Sam, let me have your reaction to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Remy. The additional drafts that they want to incorporate into the Petroleum Industry Act that was signed into law 2021 is a welcome development. But personally, I'm worried with the regulatory framework vis-a-vis the role of NNPC as a limited liability company. These are some of the things they need to streamline in line with the PIA so that we can progress some of the lacuna coming from the framework. So good that they look for in terms of efficiency in the industry, but then the regulatory framework must be able to address the major challenge that Nigerians have with the role of the NNPC vis-a-vis its current status as a limited liability company.
The new draft now, according to this report, include field development plans, compliance with petroleum development contracts, and procedures for handling post-revocation issues. These are amendments that are going to be made. For me, I always say the challenge is not the absence of laws or regulation, but the proper implementation. But this time around, there's room for improvement. There's a need to amend them to see, things that has to be done in order to meet the present realities. There are certain realities that will come up as they go by, or in that industry. There are certain needs that will come up, and that we need for amendments and regulation. And this will keep coming because some were done last year, but new amendments were made, or some drafts were sent to be approved. And now this is another one coming up. It's going to be an ongoing thing. As long as the proper framework is there, I'm sure it will encourage players in that sector to be professional and keep up to the standard.
Yeah, Femi, you've already hit the nail on the head. It's about implementation, because it's not enough for us to have an act, and that act was supposed to address everything that borders on the oil sector. But from what we see with this new draft, there are some lacuna in the PIA Act. But let's hope that with this new draft, everything that concerns the oil sector, whether the upstream, the downstream, is totally addressed and the implementation is done accordingly.
All right, let's move on to education now. The National Examination Council, NECO, has officially released the result of 2023 SSC exam. I'm sure that will excite somebody. But the result is accompanied by reports of examination malpractices involving 93 schools. This bothers me. You know, if you still have this kind of rate of exam malpractices, apart from the fact that the framework that is being provided and some of these exams, you know, going online and technology is being adopted, in spite of all this, you still have exam malpractices being prevalent. Sam, what's your reaction to this?
Yes, I think, Femi, this is provokingly worrisome, particularly from the point of view where supervisors connive with students to cheat in their exam, and I think this is really worrisome. The percentage in terms of those who pass in mathematics and English is about 61-point-something%, just slightly above average, so to speak. But what is key is that NECO must find a way to prosecute those supervisors, not just sufficient to suspend them from participating in those exams. That will serve as a deterrent for some other schools and supervisors that will go in that route. I think is an issue that must be addressed, particularly from where supervisors aid pupils to compromise in the exam. I think that's not good enough for the country. Then the general conduct of the exam, when you look at the ratio of students, about 1-point-something million took the exam, you have 61% in terms of maths and English. That's not too encouraging in my personal view.
But what do you think is responsible for that low performance? You know, if we have 61.6%, you know, achieving success or having good grades in English and mathematics, why do you have that?
There are issues with student-teacher ratio. There are issues with supervision, particularly for the regulatory agency that are in charge of school supervision. Then even parents themselves have a role to play where they connive even with officials to try to compromise the exams. These are critical issues that we need to look at, and therefore the new Minister of Education must equally declare an emergency in the education sector so that we can address some of those critical factors that are not making students perform optimally in their exams.
Yes.
Okay.
52 supervisors have been recommended for blacklisting due to their inadequate supervision, aiding and abetting. I think it's not just supervisors that should be blacklisted. We have what they call miracle centers. Those are centers where students enroll to write examinations with a guarantee, yes, because it's parents who pay for it, with a guarantee that they will be helped, in quotes, meaning that there will be more practice, which will enable them pass the examination. So these centers are known. It's not just enough to blacklist the supervisors, because the supervisors only keyed into a system that was already in place. Blacklist the schools as well, because if they're blacklisted and there's no market for them the next session, then it will curb the establishment of such miracle centers, or where schools are turned to miracle centers for students, because this is the assurance that the students get that makes them to develop a lax attitude towards their study. These are students that will get into the university and will be seeking lecturers that they can pay, or what they call block, in order to scale through. So for how long do we do that? And that's how we churn out people from the school system who look like, sound like, act like they never went through school.
All right. Talking about misconduct now, this will take us to the civil service. The story coming from Cross River says about 100 civil servants in Cross River Civil Service are facing disciplinary action for various misconducts, including truancy, absenteeism, and lateness to work. You have a new head of service who resumed last week, and he thought it was necessary, to pay an unscheduled visit.
A surprise visit.
So he went around the ministries and the department and discovered that a lot of workers were not, available, were not on ground. And then it's now coming up with disciplinary action. This bothers me, because sometimes when you visit those offices, people want to resume 8 o'clock. You get there, they are not there. You will see them coming in around 10, the attitude to work, and then this nonchalant attitude to work, especially when it comes to civil service, because nobody is supervising them. They feel, okay, it is government thing, so we can do it anyhow. But hey, the new man in charge says, no, it's not going to be business as usual. Sam, you're smiling.
Yes, while the head of service in Cross River State is doing management by wandering, I hope he's able to sustain that pronouncement that was made. And I agree with you totally that there's a high level of laxity in the public sector. And this again has to do with the performance management system that is practiced in the public sector. They need to disciplinary action, and when those civil service rules are being compromised, then they should be showed their way out.
It reminds me of an experience a friend of mine had, when we're having a youth service. The guy was posted to Ministry of Works. I won't mention the particular state so that, and you have people on ground, but there are no works. Imagine Ministry of Work without work, and that's has been the situation where even people come on ground, they have nothing to do. You see them roaming around. When you go to offices like that, for them to, something that officially it ought to be their responsibility, you see them asking you to, they still want you to beg them, they still want you to cajole them, to attend to them. Something they are being paid to do. And that's why this new head of service in Cross, I say, no, I am not going to take this, but I hope he will be able to sustain it, because it is one thing to start something, and it's another thing to be able to sustain it so that you can have, proper compliance. Because, if it doesn't continue in this light, it's a matter of weeks. It's going back to business as usual.
Okay, my worry is that the head of service who paid the surprise visit is new. You know what they call initial gragra? As you start, you need to make people know that there's a new sheriff in town. Could that be it? That's on one side.
Yes.
Now, I've often said here that people don't do what is expected. People do what is inspected. So without inspection, you can't just expect people to do what they should do. Ordinarily, they should do that, but we know that the ideal is not often the reality. So that's why he found that situation. And it's not just River State, it's across the nation. From the local government to the state civil service to federal civil service, you find things like that. You go to some offices, it's under lock and key. And you're wondering, so it has become a culture. And maybe because, too, civil servants work together for a long time. So after a while, it seemed like family affair. Should I report to you? We've been together for a long while. And then what are the sanctions? Are they weighty sanctions? Because if it's just a query and then a warning, okay, no problem. So I think more needs to be done to ensure that people who have a job do their job, because these people are rendering service to the public. There are reasons these MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies are established. There are functions that they should do. So people not being there to attend to their duties, meaning that there will be gaps somewhere, and some persons will suffer for it in the society, in the system.
There's this argument, if Nigeria is going to be better, there's need for reform in the civil service. Sam, do you agree to that?
Yes, the reforms are ongoing, but in terms, there are certain elements in those reforms that must be taken seriously, particularly in the public service. That has to do with performance management. The core issues that we just spoke about has to do with the way people are praised, the way people, at the end of the day, what comes if you don't do your job well. So targets, key tasks and responsibility must be reworked in a way that people can be measured vis-a-vis what they do. And like just Blessing alluded to a why, what don't get measured doesn't get done. And that's one of the culture that is very prevalent in the public service, particularly in Nigeria. So the reform must take cognizance of how people are measured vis-a-vis their task, and the reward system must be based on performance metrics.
All right, the next story is about subsidy removal. Nigeria set the pace, and our brothers in Angola are also taking that route. So they are considering the removal of subsidy, but this time around, not the approach that Nigeria used, but gradual removal of subsidy. You agree with me that Nigeria is, better, for the removal of subsidy in terms of revenue. Of course, there are prices to pay, or, Nigerians are going through hard time, because of removal of subsidy. But it's also expedient looking at the economic reality. And in fact, there was no budget for it at the early part of this year. So it was a sensible thing to do. And also with the reality that you can't sustain it. Nigeria spends about 400 billion monthly on subsidy. And for Angola, it's about $2.3 billion annually, according to the statistics released in 2022. $2.3 billion. That's huge. Sam, what do you think?
Well, there's this debate globally about subsidy, whether government can really operate without giving subsidy to its citizens. But in the case of Angola, they have a gradual process of trying to see how they remove the subsidy. It's one thing to remove the subsidy. It's one thing for those people in leadership to manage those resources very well. So there's this debate where people don't even trust the people in leadership. So good that Angola want to do it in phases, but then it's not just coming like a tea party. It's citizen diplomacy that has forced the government to go in that direction, because they've been a massive protest since that initiative came on board. So, well, good if they want to remove the subsidy. Then to what extent can those subsidy that has been removed from oil and gas can be deployed to other social services for the benefit of the citizen? It is in that way that citizens will appreciate the removal in the final analysis.
The issue of subsidy is a global concept. It's just an intervention from the part of the government on a particular product. In fact, the big nations, they still subsidize for some products. If you look at UK, you look at US, they still do that. It's not a bad idea, but in a situation whereby it's becoming a burden, which was what happened in the case of Nigeria, even the money being allocated for subsidy, you can't account for it. The reason why it has been controversial over the years is because it's been laced with lack of transparency, lack of accountability. You don't even know how much you produce as a nation. You don't even know how much you spend. And that's why I think for Angola too, if they can do that, maybe that would be of impact, because $2.3 billion, that's huge every year.
Well, I want to look at it from this point. Why do we even have the issue of subsidy for petrol in these countries, Nigeria, Angola, and any other country that is subsidizing petrol? What's wrong with having your own refinery? So because the countries have failed to do that part, then they are importing, and so it's become more expensive. You have to subsidize for your citizens to afford it. If they had done what should have been done in the first place, there will be no need for subsidy. So as there is a plan for gradual removal of subsidy, I also hope that there is a plan to have refineries that work. Otherwise, I don't know. It's like someone is feeling feverish, and you're giving the person medication for feeling feverish. You're not checking why is this person feeling feverish. So you're treating symptoms. You're not treating the main illness. The main illness is the lack of a refinery. So until that is sorted, whether it's a gradual process, whether it's a one-off thing, the problem will still be there. People will still find it difficult to access a very necessary commodity. It's a necessity. Petrol is a necessity. So I think that African countries should begin to look at having things in place, having refineries that work. That would take care of the issue of having to import these products.
I agree with you, because local production will go a long way, to help, that sector. Looking at, the exchange rate now, whether in Nigeria or in Angola, wherever it is, the exchange rate is not smiling. And the implication to that is you will spend more when you need to, import. You spend less when you need to do local production because you're dealing with the realities in your environment. And for a country like Nigeria, where we are blessed with the raw materials, it makes it easier. So I'm hoping, Dangote is coming to the rescue for Nigeria. Maybe another Dangote in Angola.
We do hope it is not another NLNG situation.
Let's hope respite will come soon for Angola. Sam, thank you so much for joining us on this segment. We're still going to have you, so you're still here.
My pleasure, Femi.
All right. We'll go on a short break now to take a special report on International Day for the Girl Child. And when we return, the discussion in that light will kick off. Stay with us.
In the soft anticipation of a newborn's first cry, dreams are born. Each cry echoes the promise of a new beginning, carrying within it the potential to change the world. Just as the playground beckons children to play and explore, the world calls on these young souls for creativity, adventure, and they are eager to venture, create, and shape the future, the girl child. Every October 11th is set aside to honor these imagined dreams, and celebrating the International Day of the Girl Child means recognizing the immeasurable potential that resides within girls, the architects of our collective future. According to research, over 1.1 billion girls are poised to shape the future, overcoming barriers in child marriage, education, inequality, violence, climate justice, and healthcare access. The Belgian Declaration and Platform for Action in 1995 marked a significant stride, outlining progressive measures for advancing women's and girls' rights. It was the first to specifically address girls' rights. Subsequently, on December 19, 2011, the UN declared October 11 as the International Day of the Girl Child to spotlight and address the unique challenges faced by girls globally. The theme for this year, which is Invest in Girls' Rights, Our Leadership, Our Well-Being, it emphasizes the importance of addressing these challenges and advocating for girls, empowerment and fulfillment of their human rights. It underscores that adolescent girls deserve a safe, educated, and healthy life, with the potential to mark a positive impact on the world as empowered individuals and future leaders. Education, which is key, lies at the heart of empowerment, and when girls have access to quality education, they not only enhance their knowledge and skills, but also gain the confidence to dream big and break barriers. It is crucial to address the existing gender disparity in education and create a world where all girls have equal access to education regardless of their circumstances. Promoting health and well-being is essential to ensure that girls grow into healthy and empowered women. Access to health care, including essential reproductive and mental health services, is fundamental in providing girls with the tools they need to take control of their lives and make informed decisions. Empowering girls means tackling child marriage, gender-based violence, and discrimination. Collaboration among governments, communities, and individuals is essential to eradicate these harmful practices, and technology and digital literacy are crucial tools, and enabling girls to take Bombay. Let me take it again. Empowering girls means tackling child marriage, gender-based violence, and discrimination. Collaboration among governments, communities, and individuals is essential to eradicate these harmful practices. Technology and digital literacy are crucial tools. Enabling girls to navigate the digital world safely and break gender barriers by becoming leaders in traditionally male-dominated fields remains paramount. On this International Day of the Girl Child, let us reaffirm our commitment to breaking down the barriers that hinder girls' progress and development. By investing in their education, health, and overall well-being, we are investing in a better and more equitable future for all. Grace Komolafe, Souk News.
Refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, that was a special report on the girl child, and we want to apologize for that mix-up. For today, it's a special day for them, and we're looking at that to look at their plight. Today is to amplify voices for the girl child, and to shed more light on this, we're being joined by Sam, and Sam is still here with us. Sam Oruije, glad to have you join us once again.
Thank you, Femi.
All right, today, October the 11th, is dedicated to the girl child globally. Why is it important to come up with this initiative?
All right, thank you very much indeed. In 2011, the United Nations General Assembly came with a resolution 66170, which enabled the International Day of the Girl Child. One of the imperatives of this day is to sustain the human right of the girl child, provide access to education, bring about a kind of gender parity, particularly from the girl child, and a way to sustain gender mainstreaming so that the girl child has equal access to education. Their human right is sustained, particularly the adolescent girl child.
There's this saying that raise a girl, you raise a nation. Are we living up to that in your own assessment?
Generally, particularly from the global south, there's a developing nation where patriarchy is a major challenge. The issue of the girl child, we are not there yet, but efforts are being made to see how we can mainstream the girl child into the entire developmental process. So there's a lot of work to be done. If you look at over 10.5 million out-of-school children, the percentage of the girl child in that bracket is worrisome. Therefore, the immediate community, particularly civil society organizations, must up their game in terms of the campaign to be able to put the girl child in proper perspective. In terms of policy regime, though we have a policy framework for the girl child, in terms of practice, much need to be done. But then, if you train the girl child, then you train the nation. So there are issues even with their personal health, in terms of the access to sanitary towel. There are girls who don't even go to school because they don't even have water. In the participants, these are issues that we need to bring to bear, particularly on this day where we focus essentially on the human right, investing on the human right of the girl child. So it's once you're able to invest meaningfully, particularly access to education, is very critical.
All right, according to the UN, nearly 1 in 5 girls are still not completing lower secondary, and nearly 4 in 10 girls are not completing upper secondary school education. And then the UN further went on to say that before COVID-19 pandemic, 100 million girls were at the risk of child marriage. Now that has even doubled, because over the next 10 years, up to 10 million more girls worldwide will be at the risk of child marriage. Because we see the situation where some girls actually start school, but according to the UN data, they do not complete lower secondary education. That is what we call junior secondary school here. And then some do not even complete the senior secondary school education. So how can we encourage from families, from communities, and even the educational level, government, how can we encourage girls to reach their full potential? Some start, but
midway, they stop.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Blessing. I think the core issues here I mentioned earlier, in a society that is driven essentially by patriarchy, they encourage early marriage. So what we need to do is to find a way how we can break down these cultural barriers that are inimical to the girl child. So we must mainstream the girl child into every development area so that we're able to reduce the negative impact of early child marriage. And I talked about critical access to education. Education must be affordable, particularly for the girl child. If we're able to mainstream, like I mentioned earlier, then some of these challenges will be reduced. There are even other issues that has to do with gender inequality in terms of number of enrollment. Parents, particularly in the global south, who don't even encourage their girl child to go to school. These are some of the areas that we need to work on, particularly from a policy point of view. And the community in itself must find a way to provide incentive that will encourage the girl child to access education. With those efforts, then we'll be able to bridge the gender gap and reduce early child marriage. Even sexual exploitation for the girl child will be reduced minimally.
Talking about, early child marriage, you agree with me that it's still in vogue, even in spite of the level of campaign, the advocacy. Now, what do we need to do, especially in areas where the level of literacy is low or where you have more of illiteracy? They seem not to have complied with this, advocacy. What can be done to ensure that those girls who are becoming victims of this early marriage, because they can't speak for themselves, what do we need to do to amplify their voices?
We need to appeal to community leaders, particularly religious leaders, to see how the issue of culture and patriarchy, which is a major challenge, particularly for the girl child, must be reduced in a way that most communities should encourage their wards and their relations to have access to education. But I think the challenge more is really more in terms of religious practices that do not support the girl child. So we need community education. We need to let religious leaders know that the more you educate the girl child, the better the society. So we need to have a holistic approach in terms of how we do development. Even those who don't even have access to education, we can provide some form of adult education where they can have access to education. So once they have access to education, then that way able to enhance their human rights.
There are still some cultural practices that are not favorable to the girl child. For instance, female genital mutilation. There have been several campaigns against it, but it still happens in communities. How can we check that?
Well, I think female genital mutilation, the last statistics that I read, there's an improvement in that. But then again, like we just mentioned earlier, we need a higher level of advocacy, particularly from civil society, a direct community interface within communities. We need to enforce the human rights of the girl child, even though when they say human rights are not justiciable, we'll find a way to see how we can prosecute people because they are enabling law that says that these practices are inimical to the reproductive health of the girl child. So once those frameworks, the policy regimes are well implemented, then those practices will be reduced minimally. But if you look at it, what it was by the year 2000 when the issues were in the public sphere, it has reduced minimally. So more campaign, more advocacy. And those who are in the Ministry of Women Affairs must find a way to reach out to the grassroots so that we can tackle this issue more effectively.
Talk to us about some of the activities enlisted for today, as it's being celebrated globally. And then what do you think can also be done, way forward to ensure that the public awareness, improves, to improve the level of public participation and awareness when it comes to a special day like this?
I think this year highlights investing on human rights and access to education to create an enabling environment for leadership that encourage policy regime that favor the girl child. So therefore, from multilateral organization to national to subnational government and up to the local government, effort must be made to highlight one, that the adolescent girl child has a human right, and human right is part of their developmental process. They must emphasize on their human right. Number two, access to education. Then we must preach this message that patriarchy does not sustain development for a better society. So the key lesson for today's celebration is that we must invest on human rights, and the human rights include access to education, access to water and sanitation, which are some inimical to the girl child in our immediate environment.
Let's look at role modeling for the girl child. We find that a lot the girl child or women are objectified. So what role does the media have to play, and even society have to play, to ensure that the right role model are shown to the girl child as they grow up? If you watch music videos, you find a lot of objectification of females. You watch movies and several other things. How do we begin to change the narrative? We talk about having girls in science, having girls in tech. So how do we change the narrative of them wanting to copy the things they've seen over the years to something else that is more constructive?
I think, in a nutshell, I think investing in education is critical to addressing the issue. But in specific terms, I think women in particular must find a way to see how women are not used for negative actions, particularly in branding, where you see commercial activities where women are almost in nude form. In that regard, they must project themselves first and foremost as women, and women must encourage, particularly the adolescent girl, not to be used for those kind of what do you call it, branding that are negative. And the media itself must purge itself in using the female gender to promote certain elements that are not okay in the public space.
Let me read this statement to you, and it says, I would like you to react to it. It says 2.2 billion people under the age of 25 do not have access to internet, with the majority being girls. How do you see that?
That's worrisome. That's worrisome. Therefore, the global community must find a way to invest in technology, particularly investment that are targeted towards the girl child. And I do know recently as a country, we had some money from the World Bank that is targeting the adolescent girl child. So this is a wake-up call that that money must be invested meaningfully to see how we can improve on the situation, particularly access to technology for the girl child.
All right, since we're talking about access, there's been this debate that a certain necessity for the girl child should be subsidized. We talked about subsidy a while ago, and Femi alluded to the fact that subsidy is a global thing, and governments all over the world subsidize one item or the other for their citizens. Now, when we talk about sanitary pads, there's been the debate or the advocacy that it should be subsidized for the girl child to be able to afford it because it is a necessity. Now we find out when we talk about combating infections, HIV, government talk about providing preventive methods or, for people, such as the use of condoms, and they donate to schools. But that is optional. You choose to either abstain or be involved or get intimate. But a girl child doesn't choose whether or not to have a monthly cycle. It is natural. What's your take on that issue?
For me, I don't even think about subsidy when it comes to sanitary towels for the girl. I think it's a basic human right when you look at it from the perspective of sanitation and water. I do know, I read a report recently that in some country, some girls don't even go to school because they don't even have access to water and sanitary towel. And this is a more challenging situation. So I think of a necessity, some of the programming that they need to do with this funding must involve giving sanitary parts to the girl child, particularly at the early stage, and they should put it and find a way to donate those things to the girl child from various schools. And I think the government has the capacity to be able to provide free access to sanitary towel to enhance the dignity of the girl child and a way to encourage them to be in school. Can you imagine when girls don't even go to school, when they are under their monthly cycle because they don't even have access to clean water, they don't even have access. These are core issues of development that the government must look into. So I use this opportunity to suggest to the Minister of Women Affairs that this loan that is targeted to the adolescent girl child must be used adequately in such a manner that improve on the condition of the adolescent girl child for which those funds were originally meant for.
Let's look at the issue of, you know, some who have this archaic mindset or this impervious mindset that the place of the girl child should be in the kitchen or should be at home doing, you know, domestic chores and things like that. How do we begin to change the narrative for people like that to understand that, yes, there are women who are proving that they are more capable to handle, you know, responsibilities, even political offices? How do we begin to change that on a national scale, then looking at our political system and, you know, also our social, you know, system as well?
I think we already have a lot of role models globally, women who are at the top of various institutions, government, political, commercial. So those are incentive even for the girl child to look onto. But then we must invest massively on literacy education to say that there's what you call gender equality. We must constantly mainstream gender into our education, into our development policies. Once we're able to do that, then these die-hard people who don't believe there's a place for the girl child will change quickly. So, but women globally are doing very well. We have some of our own playing at the international war stage in terms of their roles, and then women are competing globally. We have women who are pilots. We have women who have gone to space. So I think we must encourage that there's what you call gender equality, and we must work towards that direction to achieve that equality, particularly for the girl child.
Let's look at violence against the girl child. There are still high rates of rape going on, and violence, whether domestic violence or violence generally against the girl child. Now, let's look at this way. Oftentimes we talk about training the girl child, but is it possible to just train the girl child alone and not train the boy child as well, and have a society where there is a society free of violence. How do we work around this to ensure that the girl child is protected, whether within the domestic environment or outside the domestic environment? Looking at the boy child too, what are the things to be taught to the boy child? What are the things to be taught to male folks so that they understand and know how to make the girl child feel protected?
I think those in gender studies have come up with a new language that they call gender-sensitive language. That is the beginning of the reform, that we must use language that are gender-sensitive. So you talk about chairman rather than using the word chairperson. Talk about gentlemen of the press. Why don't you just use a more gender-friendly language? That is the beginning for those who are in gender study. So number two, we must equally train the boy child to respect the right of the girl child. And that, to a very large extent, will reduce the issues of gender-based violence that currently is on the high side across the world. So in that regard, once we do our construction of language that is more inclusive in terms of the way we approach the boy child, the way we approach the girl child, then there will be a harmony in terms of the relationship. In the long run, then, these issues of gender-based violence, particularly at the adolescent stage, will be reduced. Then parents must be responsible enough in terms of the way they relate, even with the women. So when people are growing up, once there's a harmonious relationship from the family level and the way the boy child or the man addresses the woman, once those conversations are harmonious, that will help in terms of the upbringing of the gender. So the current language is to use the word gender, which is inclusive, which is mainstream, including the boy and the girl child, in such a way then you can have a meaningful strategic relationship as they move from adolescent into adulthood.
As we wrap up, what kind of policy, what kind of intervention are you expecting from the government, especially on a day like this, from NGOs, in order to ensure that the right of a girl child is being respected and is being upheld at national level?
My first message for today is that there were certain elements, about 10 of them, if I remember correctly, that were gender related, that were dropped in the last amendment to the law. So the National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, of the necessity, must rework those bills that are very sensitive, that are friendly to the women gender. That's number one. Number two, the Ministry of Women Affairs must find a way to see the affirmative action that favor gender. They do a lot of advocacy, see how those policy framework favor the women, particularly in terms of political office, in terms of access to education. Once you're able to sustain this, then the investment in the human rights of the girl child become more meaningful, and the girl child will have its appropriate place in society.
All right, Sam Oruwije, thank you very much for amplifying your voice for the girl child.
Thank you very much indeed.
All right. We'll go on a short break now, and we'll be right back to have more discussions on early exchange. Stay with us.
As more people migrate from the rural areas to the urban centers, the need to have more well-planned and structured communities becomes imperative, causing more people to want to own their own homes or investing in other physical properties, thereby increasing their economic viabilities. This is one of the central ideas behind real estate investment, which as a sector of the Nigerian economy accounted for about $3.9 billion in the last quarter of 2022 and 4.46% to the gross domestic product in the first quarter of 2023. The value of real estate market is projected to reach $2.09 trillion in 2023, and report has shown that residential real estate dominates the market with a projected market volume of $1.79 trillion this year. The future of real estate in Nigeria holds huge potential considering the population growth, urbanization, and technology serving as a major driving force. However, the consistent nightmares of naira depreciation, capital market threat, poor building quality, ineffective property protection laws, to mention but a few, are a major bane of worries for some, and if not taken care of, these could pose a major problem to investors. And to some, all these projections might just seem like a man building a sand castle by the seashore. Juvi Ufiene, Suk News.
To ensure that this is done.
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Thanks for staying with us in Early Exchange this morning. Now we're looking at the real estate market. What are the new trends in real estate market? What are innovations? Yeah, if you're someone who is looking to make some investment there, this information will be very useful for you. And thankfully, we have Miracle Ume, who's a realtor at Rich Boss Realty Limited, joining us virtually this morning to discuss about innovations in real estate. Good morning, Miracle. All right, Miracle is getting ready. While Miracle is doing that, I know that Femi is looking towards making some investment, because yesterday we talked about investment opportunities, and real estate was one area that was mentioned where there are huge opportunities for investment. Now, if you are looking towards that, what's for you comes first? Are you looking for maybe a landed property, or maybe have a building for commercial purposes, for residential purpose? What's your interest?
Well, before I reveal my interest, it's important.
So I know how to get close to you, become more friends with you.
Of course,
I just want to know.
Don't worry, I will let it out of the bag. But before I do that, it's important to emphasize that, when you look at real estate in Nigeria, it's a big business. Oh my God. Why using that reference is to tell you that the magnitude of the potential in Nigeria. When COVID happened, a lot of businesses were affected in Nigeria. And, a lot of businesses started struggling. Even some sectors started struggling. But when it comes to real estate, it's something that the value ever remains, evergreen. You have a situation that even with what happened during COVID, real estate is still booming. People are buying lands, people are investing in that sector. So in Nigeria, it's a big business. And for me, I always invest in that kind of assets, because over time it appreciates. Anything that has to do with real estate appreciates over time. If you buy any property or any asset now, at the rate of 1 million, I can bet you with you in the next 5-10 years, you're going to make more money. And that's the beauty of that sector and that business.
Okay, from what you just told me now, I'm making my decision on what to do with you because you know what they say about your association and your friends. So if I have someone who's thinking big, it means that, yes, of course, I will go farther and get bigger in life. Let's talk to Miracle Omer, who's just joined us now via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me, Sophie.
We're glad to have you. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you.
All right, you're a realtor, and in your business, in the course of doing your duty, what are the new things that you found? What are the new innovations in the real estate market?
Okay, first of all, I would like to just appreciate you guys for what you're doing and thank you for this opportunity, right? And I would like to also explain what real estate is really. I know some of us know what it is already, but it's beyond just landed property, right? And speaking about the innovation part of it, it's even space. Now, right now, it goes beyond what we can see. It's also space, right? And I mean, air, the space that you can't hold or touch. So, one thing I've seen about real estate and how it has um, expanded and the innovations around it is how that we have gone into a level of exploration as humans, right? That we are now including technologies that can help and assist in making things faster and better, right? And in Rich Bush Beauty, one thing I have discovered is that the payment system and in connecting with clients, everything is made smoother and faster using technology. Um, I say that to say that the level at which we communicate with clients and in giving the documents is no longer traditional as usual. Right now, you can receive your documents via email and it is automated. It is automatic in the sense that when you make your payment for the land purchase, so to say, you get instant receipts, you get instant documentation. It's no longer the place where you have to wait for months to get your landed properties and all of that. No involvement of Omonile for documentation, no all of those things for those of us that stay in Lagos, no lag. So technology has really helped in fostering all of that. And when it comes to land survey, you no longer need well, you still need a human to do all of that, but it doesn't as much depend on a human being to do the land survey. I mean, you could just go online, you could use drone, you could use AI. I'm sure some of us are aware of metaverse and all of that. It's no joke, it's here to stay, and it's being worked on progressively as we advance as humans in technology or using technology rather. Thank you.
All right, Miracle, we're in the era of artificial intelligence where it's becoming of concern in every sector, you know, not just real estate alone. But I would like you to talk about, since you're a player in that sector, do you see AI making any impact on that sector soon? And if that is going to happen, in what area do you think that influence might come from?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say that as you have said rightly, it is in all sectors, right? And for real estate, where it would mostly come from is for the development of an estate. It will no longer involve so much human effort, right? For the AI, it will no longer involve human effort. And grazing the land, for instance, grazing the land, um, putting in the things that are needed for the estate to be established, like road network, the electricity and water systems and all of that that's involved in building a community. It will no longer so depend on the human effort as it were. that you have to wait for this person to complete this level of brick or foundation to get a building erected on a land or property. You know, it's you have to right now. It's already begun in developed countries. You know, like China, where they use fabricated homes. They just use the machines to put homes together, and it can be brought down in a day, and it can be coupled together in about 3 months. You know, and some they are advancing it to be 1 month, so you don't have to wait for so long for your estate to be developed, right? So I think it will first start from development of the estates or of the lands. Thank you.
All right. So in Nigeria, how much of these innovations have we started implementing?
For Nigeria, we have started implementing the fabricated homes, as I said, because we made our research and we found out that they're already here, right? And it was surprising because I thought it was far from home, but it's here and it's here to stay. And one of the things that we are going to be taking up as a company is that actually that you are able to put up your building wherever you like and take it off whenever you want to. And it's quite affordable, right? And it's safe for the environment and it's clean and it's easy to maintain as well, right? It's not like the usual brick that we see around.
Rephrase that question this way. Looking at the peculiarity of our environment, what areas or what needs do you think the use of technology will address? What areas do you think technology should be deployed in order to to reduce human interface and bring efficiency into that sector?
All right, thank you. I would say, environmentally speaking, it's to help the nature get safer for humans, right? Because most people are scared of technology. But the thing is, if we use it in a way to help the environment, it can actually work. I mean, look at what we are using right now, the phone. I'm communicating to you from Abuja and you're communicating to me from Lagos. And it's helping our businesses. And so using technology to erect um, trees or plant trees and that's safe for the environment and the solar system, making renewable energy that will help the environment and not just depending on gasoline and all of the chemicals that are harmful to the environment will also help in you know helping humanity.
Okay, so real estate is an investment that is capital intensive, so to speak. It's not just very cheap for you to come by a property, but there are some innovations that allows crowdfunding, that allows some kind of flexible investment. Can you talk to us about that?
Okay, I'm glad you raised that question because that's one of the things that we are working on. And we started off as a real estate for the young working population of Nigeria first, then Africa, then the world at large subsequently. And because we discovered that most young people would like to invest and own properties, but they do not know how to go about it because there's no bulk money stored up somewhere for them to start using to invest. I mean, they just started out their lives. And so we started with that mission to see that most young people own lands and properties. And as a young girl growing up, I wanted to own a lot of it, a lot of properties. So when I met my boss, Mr. Oluwayemi Sheun's boss, he told me about the investment plan that you don't need to break your bank to go about that since it takes most likely 2 to 5 years to develop an estate, right? To develop a land, to erect a building on it, to do all of the infrastructure that is needed on a land or on a space, like I said earlier about related as a space. You don't need to break your bank to do it. Since it takes that long to develop, you can use that amount of years or the duration, the period to pay up to acquire your landed property, right? So it's been broken down into months. You can pay on installments in month. In our case now, at least what we see, we do it per month. So you can pay as low as 10,000 naira to 20,000 naira per month, right? So you don't feel it. It's just as if you're doing your normal electricity subscription for your house. So you just, for your monthly expenses, just send it across. And like I said earlier, about the technology, you don't need to be reminded or remember, say, oh, I need to do this. It's automatically deducted from your account, and you automatically get your receipt and all of that. So it's quite flexible, easy and sweet. And before you know it, by the end of 2 years, you own the land. Thank you.
All right, for someone who wants to take up real estate as a business or as a form of career, what are the basic skills or requirements, when it comes to technology and software that you think such a person needs to be abreast with in order to be, to play efficiently in that sector?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say you should put in systems in place. By system, I mean the structures in place that would ease every transaction you are having with every client. And you should remember that you are there to serve people, to own properties. You are there to serve and help people acquire these properties. So that should be your first focus. And then secondly, set up the structures that will ease every transaction because it's going to be hectic when people start rushing and to key into the vision you have, you know. So just raise up good structures, get a good lawyer, get a very good lawyer, and get all of your documentations in place. Go to the right organizations like the Real Estate Development of Nigeria, get registered with them, know if a land is supposed to be for real estate or multi-purpose function or agricultural functions. Don't just buy it because it's a land and then people tell you, oh yeah, you can go ahead and get it. People around there. Make sure everything is verified under the government, by the government, and the purpose for which it was originally meant for. It's not that maybe they were supposed to build something else there, maybe like a stadium or construct a school there for the government or put a road, a highway around across there and you go and purchase it and then tomorrow the government is pursuing you and then people don't know what to do again. So get your facts right and correct and build good structures around. Thank
Right.
you. Before
Talking
you go.
about
Thank you.
getting your facts right, a while ago you mentioned that with the new innovations in technology, you can actually do your survey using artificial intelligence. Does that mean you don't necessarily have to be on the ground physically conducting your survey? And if that is the case, how accurate will it be given our peculiarities?
All right. So currently, I wouldn't say it's totally perfect. I wouldn't say you should totally depend on artificial intelligence to do your survey because um, it is not generally accepted yet. It's still being tested. It's still something that is not completely worked on, especially by the government. So this is just private sectors. They are usually forward thinkers, I would say, and because of that, some of them have discovered this gold using AI and innovation to do the surveys. Still, you have to go there physically, right, to get your facts right. And sometimes, yeah, artificial intelligence is correct, and sometimes there are other peculiarities around it that would make it seem as though AI was wrong or the technology that informed you was wrong, right? So there's just a whole lot around it. But currently, you cannot fully depend on that. That's the honest truth. Still, it's helpful. Thank you.
All right. We at a time where online business is the rave of the moment. We're in a digital age where e-commerce, yes, is there, it's catching up and is becoming a big deal. Now, looking at the players in the real estate sectors, are they catching up on this, taking advantage of this situation whereby you have these players having, rendering their services online? Are they taking advantage of this? And if this is happening, what are the challenges and the other side to it, compared to the convention where you need to have a shop or you have a place where you can liaise with your clients?
Right. It has not been easy, because I'm in the system, right? And we as well, we do most of our businesses online. And in as much as we have a physical office, you don't often see us there as much, except by appointment, because we have other businesses we are handling, we have other places we need to be at physically, and there's a whole lot we are working on at the back end. So the thing is, when you establish your integrity and make people believe you, make your audience or your clients believe you, it wouldn't be much of an issue. But starting off, right, and being a big player, before you get to being a big player, you must have been a small player. So starting off initially, you must get to the level where they have come to trust you. They have come to um, they have come to a place where they've tested and say, okay, this person is not running away with our money. This person is actually doing the work. There is evidence on sites or off sites that, okay, you're actually doing the work, and the innovations you are working with is actually true. Is actually true rather, and there's no lie in what you are doing. When they come to terms with that, um, they will agree with the online business. And for us, we are a young company, right? And people have doubted. I wouldn't say people, they've been doubts, and they'll be like, oh, how do I trust this process? How do I? And for us, like I said earlier, get a good lawyer. When you get a good lawyer, and there is there is there's this notion, especially with us as African, that it's what we see that we believe. So when they see that everything you're doing is legal and there's no shady business behind that, they come to trust you. And even with the online thing, when they see the swiftness of your business, how quickly you respond to their messages, how quickly you respond to their complaints and documentation and all of that, how smooth your processes are, they'll come to believe that, right? And for the big players, currently I think they're adapting it bit by bit. I don't know for other people, but I'm saying that adapting it bit by some of our competitors. I see that they're adapting it, and I think with time, everyone will come to agree with it.
Everyone is going for land right now, or I assume almost everyone is going to secure a land, own a land. But you agree with me that there will come a time in the future where land will not be available for everybody. So looking ahead, what innovations have the real estate sector come up with to tackle that challenge of less availability of land for people who want to have homes or own a building?
All right. Initially, before I started, I was like, real estate is no longer land and the houses we see. It's actually inclusive of space, right? So space is included in real estate. And for example, I don't know about the building you're in, but let me assume it is a story building or more. So the space after the when where the building stops, there can be another erected apartment, right? And that's a space, and people can live up there. And I don't think we can exhaust space, right? No matter how much we keep going and going, I think there's a level where you can stop. But we can maximize what we have. Really, we can maximize the space we have. And um, earlier, I stated the fabricated home where you can, erect and detach whenever you want. So I think that will help, really. for people that when the land is exhausted, which I don't think it will be because there's a whole lot that we are yet to explore. I mean, in Lagos, I know that the water is being filled up and homes are erected, hotels, big mansions are erected on water, or somewhere that was once water filled and it's standing very well, like it's standing on a rock. So yeah.
Okay, let's even look at that. Erecting buildings in the water, filling up the water to have buildings on it. Are we doing it the way we should do to avoid future consequences? And even on the space you talked about, for instance, if this is a story building or a two-story building and someone pays for the space above it to have buildings erected. Now, I'm not an engineer, but I'm looking at it from a layman point of view. Shouldn't the foundation of the building be based on what structure that's going to stand on it? So is that already foreplanned to accommodate as many stories that will come on it, whether they are in existence right now or later in the future? Are those put into consideration?
Yeah, for us, I can only speak um, for where I'm coming from and what I see that we have planned towards or planning towards. That's why I say that because our plan is actually to subsequently erect above, right, to accommodate others going forward. So I don't know about the others, but for us, we have that in plan. Yeah, we see, I mean, we think forward and then we are working on that. So once it's exhausted, to look for another place to do our land banking and acquire more land. And yeah, for your first question, you asked if that's the right thing to do, building, filling water on, filling water and then building on if that's the right thing to do. Well, if since it's working, I mean, we've seen evidence that so far the buildings are yet to collapse, and I don't think it's going to collapse anytime soon. So it's working. So I mean, we can go with that.
If it's not if it's the right thing to do, I'm asking, are we doing it rightly? Because we sometimes see the environmental challenge, particularly in during rainy season when there is flooding issue, because water must find its level. So the question is, are we doing it rightly? Are there technologies that we also need to embrace in order to have that happen?
Yeah. I won't say we are doing it rightly completely because nature is nature, and then we cannot force some things. We have to allow water pass through where water wants to pass through, and subsequently, if it wants to do worse and it's going when it's too full to contain and all of that. But I think there are measures taken to channel the water in this case, right, to where it will pass safely and not disturb the building. And I think there are measures put in place for it not to affect the erected building going forward.
Now, let's look at what an investor needs to do to take advantage of the emerging technology and innovations happening in that sector to remain competitive and very efficient in the business. So what should an investor do when it comes to technology, taking advantage of it to remain competitive?
All right. We are humans and we are very intelligent. They call it artificial intelligence. We are the ones that put it in place just so that work can be easy for us and we can have more time to do other things. Emphasis on time to do other things, right? And get better. And in our generation, we want to get things fast. We want to get things done quickly. I don't know where we are rushing to, but I would say it's just the era on us. So as an investor, you need to think forward. What do people want? And I think in our time, you just have to create problems where there is none. Create a problem and create the solution, and people would want to get it. That's how to think as an investor in this age and time. Think of the problem, think of the solution, and you stay ahead of. others, of your other competitors. And you have solution. When you have solution to this, there's a demand for it. And I mean, to keep you abreast.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this finally. When an investor wants to acquire property, there's inspection. But we talked about people being busy right now, people not having time. Are there innovations that help the investor see what they want to get and make options from the different properties available, maybe virtually, and can they be trusted?
Yes, there are tools that can be used to do your inspection. Virtual reality can help with that. There's a lens, the VR lens that you can just put on and watch. It will appear as though you are right there. They started implementing it in the metaverse, but I think some companies have started using that. I wouldn't want to mention names, but yeah, you can actually go on virtual inspection and it can be trusted because I mean, first off, it's a human being that took the, for instance, aerial view or side view or left view or middle view of the place that you want to purchase, and they can be, put together, compiled, and put in a chip inserted in the VR lens, and then you can watch it from the comfort of wherever you are and decide what it is that you want to use for or will purchase rather for your investment or as your investment. Thank you.
All right, what a way to wrap up. Miracle, we want to thank you for your time with us. It's been quite productive and, it's been quite engaging, having this conversation with you. We want to thank you for sharing your thoughts on Early Exchange this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here and I'm honored.
All right. It's time for another break now. Let's go on a break and we'll be right back to have more discussion on real estate investment. Stay with us.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, Souk Enlightenment. Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is in no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodun Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodun Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the Eko greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, Souk Enlightenment.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, the program is still Early Exchange, and we've been looking at real estate investment in Nigeria. You know, looking at the potential. We've been talking about what an average player needs to do in that sector to take advantage of innovations and emerging markets. We talked about the technology. You know, we had Miracle earlier who talked about the needs when it comes to innovations and technology. And now we want to look at real estate development in Nigeria, how far we've gone, looking at the commercial value. And to shed more light on that, we are being joined by Oji Chinedu Michael, who is the CEO, Jardine Properties. Oji, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Glad you. Yeah, today's conversation is getting bigger and better. It's a double dose. We have another guest who is Otumba Gbemi Oyeniyi, the MD CEO, Richards Billionaire Group. Otumba Gbemi, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be on your program.
So let me start with Gbemi this time around. The real estate is considered to be the 5th largest contributor to the GDP in Nigeria. Why do you think real estate is a big business in Nigeria?
Well, number one, it has to do with our population. I mean, now we are boasting of being the largest, Black nation in the world. I mean, you're talking about 200 million. And it's projected that in another 10 years, we are going to grow to maybe like 250 million. So when you talk about numbers, you talk about population, you are talking about housing, you're talking about, the property business, you're talking about, investment in real estate. So it is a big deal based on our population. And apart from that, I mean, Nigeria is not a poor country. So there's a lot, that we have. And then maybe with the new administration, I mean, we expect a lot of investment to start, at least, coming in. For example, like the development of the Dangote refinery. I mean, that's a whole new chapter in real estate development, because that axis is going to see all the, aspect of real estate, whether it's hotel management, whether it's holiday resorts, residential accommodation. So it's a whole new game, for us in Nigeria in terms of, real estate.
Conversation to Oji now, as a way to start with you. I would like you to talk to us some of the opportunities in real estate in Nigeria, since we've agreed that it's a big deal, it's a big business. Talk to us about some of the emerging opportunities and markets when it comes to real estate in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you once again for having me. Now, real estate is a big deal. Like you just said, real estate is taking territories. Real estate is taking the market. With my own few research in real estate, I discovered that real estate can change one's personality. Real estate can make you, right? So in the market today, real estate has helped a lot of people become a billionaire, which I know, right? So every business out there, to me, I see it as they are finding it difficult to survive to compare to real estate, because real estate is the talk of town. Yes. So my mentor once says that if you are the age of 18 to 65 and you're not partaking in real estate, you're but only cheating yourself. So it's something everybody needs to look into. So that's just it.
Let me ask, Gbemi, what are the challenges in real estate development? Everyone wants to own a home. So I'm going to begin from residential properties. Let's talk about residential properties, the challenges in real estate development in that aspect.
Well, financing is a major and I don't want to say the only challenge for residential accommodation development. And it is also because of our, financial system that has not given real estate priority. That is the truth of the matter. But in the last 3 years, the federal government has finally at least made it possible. For example, those who maybe civil servants and those who contribute into the national building fund, the Federal Mortgage Bank, now they can access at least 25% of their contribution. So that is also now going to change or improve, the challenge, because cost of buying any property, I mean, it's way, way out of the reach of the ordinary or average Nigerian worker or businessman. And that is where the banking or the financing, needs to come in. Also, even for the real estate developers, getting bulk money, getting the big, huge finance has not been easy. So that is the greatest challenge. But like I said, with the possibility of at least buying a house or building a property now through the National Building Fund or the Federal Mortgage Bank is now opening that opportunity for more people who contribute towards the pension and all that, like also for those who contribute towards their pension. Now you can also at least, access 25% of your contribution to buy a property. So it is going to get better. That's what I can say.
All right, Oji, talk to us about the commercial side. What are the considerations that the developer puts in place and challenges is faced with when going into commercial real estate?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this question goes.
Okay.
Sorry. Right on.
Oh, okay. Well, what the developers have been doing so far is instrumental payments. That has helped, people to now acquire land. We now do instrumental payment. You can spread your payment either for 12 months, 18 months, things like that. So that is the only aspect that, real estate companies have, been using, so that, okay, even for those who are buying properties, okay, deposit 20% and then spread the payment. So that is the only access that has been possible. And then maybe you can use your pension to maybe pay the rest. That's all that is available for now.
Now, subsequently, I will come to Gbemi just on the same question. And the question is for an investor who is thinking of investing in real estate. What will be your recommendations? What should be the area of focus? And then I would like you to talk to us, particularly in Nigeria, states that should be of interest for anybody who wants to invest in real sector. And you must tell us the reason these states or these locations should be of interest. I'll start with Oji, then subsequently come to Gbemi. Oji, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. You asked the question of the state, right? What state is preferable when it comes to investing in real estate, right?
Yes.
Now, for me presently, Lagos is the talk of town. Lagos is one of the best I tell people to invest. Now, but secondly, the world is going to Asaba. Majority of our investors presently, due to the system, they prefer investing outside Lagos. But before, we have much more investors here in Lagos. And a lot of people are trying to develop the eastern part, and it's calling traffic towards that Asaba axis. So the main focus now, people are looking at, most of the investors I meet out there, all of them are talking about Asaba. Now, only a few are talking about, some are talking about Abuja, but if you ask me where is the main place, where to get this thing done, I prefer Lagos and Asaba. That is me. I don't know for others, but I prefer Lagos and Asaba because there's as I'm talking to you, there are a lot of traffic going on in Asaba when it comes to property demand. There are a lot of traffic going on in Asaba. So Asaba is the main place now, and Lagos. Thank you.
All right, Bemi, what's your take on this?
Well, for me, for real estate investment, basically you look at return on investment. And you also look at, property value. So for us, we still, for investors, particularly we direct them towards the Lekki Free Trade Zone, where the Dangote refinery, is coming up, because that is actually a new city, entirely new city being developed out of nothing. And when you talk about property value, by the time the refinery, comes into operation, it is expected that property value will go up by maybe 400% in the first year. So for any investor, in real estate, that is a serious access to, or angle to look at. Jadon actually explained, Asaba can also be attractive, particularly businessmen, who want to invest in the eastern part of the country, because Asaba is also like a business hub and all that. So, but for us, we are looking at, that axis of, the Lekki Free Trade Zone, because those are the new cities that are coming up and will be rapid, because the influx of people or the demand for land in that axis in the next 12 months is going to be astronomical. And so that is just my take, and that's my advice.
Let me ask. When you identify the area, are there specific type of projects, whether for residential or commercial purposes, that are in high demand in some of these areas that the developer looks at and keys into?
Like I said, the Dangote refinery is going to attract over 100,000 people when operation commences. Expatriates are all going to be there. Businessmen are going to be there. Consultants are going to be there. Casual workers, are going to be there. So for that axis, you demand, there's going to be high demand for hotels, for highbrow residential, low-income earners like the casual workers. Most of them are also going to be living in that axis. Shopping malls, name it, event centers, relaxation. So that axis has opportunity for all aspects of real estate development. Whatever the different category classification, it is going to be demanded there, and is going to be demanded, in a short period, because once the refinery commences, it's going to be an influx. It's not an area that will develop gradually. No, it's an area that will develop overnight, because once operation commences, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people will want to live in that area, will have businesses to do in that area. Foreigners are going to be trooping in here and there. So there's demand for every real estate development in that axis.
investments in a place like
I can't hear you.
What specific projects, what specific type of projects are in very high demand in that area?
Is it my question?
All right, Oji, if you can hear us, the question is, what specific, you talked about Asaba being of interest or should be of interest to an investor. So Blessing is asking what kind of projects should be of interest when you're looking at that location.
Okay, I can hear you clearly now. Okay, you know, the best thing to look for when it goes to real estate investment business in Asaba, to me, presently, because of the businessmen out there and because of what people are into, you see the area of commercial is one of the potential return of investment. Now, commercial business gives you high potential return of investment. Very, 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 very well. Now, looking after potential, you can talk about hotels. Like if you go to Owerri this time, you see half of Owerri is hotel. If I'm not mistaken, if you go to Owerri, you see half of Owerri now is hotel. And hotel business is giving that passive income. Yes, hotel business is giving that passive income because most of the investors out there, they are not just buying these properties, or most of these developers these days, all they are doing now is developing for hotels and other things that will fetch them money. But short lets, yes, because residential properties are very important, they are good, but the money you get from commercial properties are far more higher than residential, right? So hotels and short lets are what most people are driving into when it comes to investment. So majority of the people out there, they are using this real estate stuff of a thing to generate passive income. You see, so that is why most people go into hotels. And in Asaba these days, hotels are springing forth. Even in Lagos. And let me just go back to what my brother said, Bimi. Now, like the Lekki Free Trade Zone, those assets, because of the forthcoming international airport and the upgoing Dangote refinery and the deep sea port there. Now, there will be a lot of smart investors driving into that place, and most of them will not live there. There are some people coming from Lekki Phase 1 that will not still live there, but they just want to come there and do business. So this kind of business requires hotels. Thus, commercial properties will sell more because the people that will be living there are most people coming into that place to stay and to do business. But most of these big men or top men, they can fly from Abuja, they can fly from Asaba, they can fly from different places to come to that place for business purpose. And when they come to that place, they will need to lodge, and some will want to go for shortlet apartment to live comfortable. So now my take in this is hotel business will be the talk of town in that particular place, that Lekki Aziz, that Ibeju Lekki Aziz. Hotel business and shortlet will be the talk of town. Even in Asaba, I mentioned. So most of these are commercial use. So thank you.
Great to have the privilege of getting this tip from you. That's nice. All right, we're due for another short break now. We'll go on break, and when we return, our conversation with our guests will still continue. Stay with us.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, Souk Enlightenment.
Lagos! Get ready for Celebration at Freedom Park, Lagos. Celebration is a week-long music and art festival celebrating the life and legacy of the Afrobeat legend Fela Anikulapo Kuti under the theme Underground System 3, a coda to the general theme Question Jam Answer, featuring live music, exhibitions, boxing, dance, fashion, and many more. Happening on the 9th to 15th October 2023 at Freedom Park on Broad Street, Lagos Island. For more information, sponsorship and support, call 0907-158-7412 or 0809-500-6567. Gate fee 1,000 naira only. Join us as we celebrate the music, spirit, and legacy of the legend.
Tickets are available online at ariatickets.com. Underground System 3, supported by Origin
Media Partners.
To ensure that this is done.
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Thank you for staying with us on Early Exchange, and the discussion today centers around real estate. So yesterday we talked about investment opportunities. Today we're focusing mainly on real estate. And Femi has been taking notes of very key locations that he would want to make an investment in as it concerns real estate. And we have we've had two key practitioners in that area, Oji Chinedu Michael, who's the CEO Jandon Properties, and also Otumba Bemi Oyenini, MD, CEO Realtors Billionaire Group. So we'll continue the conversation right now with Oji. Oji, thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so we've seen how the Dangote refinery coming to the Lekki-Ekpe axis has brought development, and how much of development is going to bring. Let's look at infrastructure development, government investing in infrastructure development. What kind of infrastructure aids or will aid real estate development? What do we want to turn government attention to as we'll talk about real estate development?
Okay. In this, let me just talk about this Lekki axis here, right? Now, ever since the ongoing project of the refinery and the deep sea port, now the infrastructure there is superb, I must confess. Now, straight down from Ekpe down to Awuyaya, if you have heard about Awuyaya before, there's this construction of road, very, 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 very powerful and very quality. And when it comes to light, they're trying, right? So this road, once they finish this road, I believe demand for housing will high, will increase, and the total of this Ibejoleki. Now there will be a coastal road along that from the refinery down to the VI, from the refinery down to the VI, and infrastructure there will kick off very well. So we are looking at, we are telling the government, or we are appealing with the government to focus more on the road and light. With these two things, we believe everything will go well, because road makes, imagine driving from, let me just say a few stories here. There was a day I was driving, due to the new road construction, there was a day I was driving to my place. Normally, 10 from the office to my place is about 15-20 minutes. But because of the fixed road, I passed my junction. And when I realized that I've passed my junction, I need to turn back from over close to a kilometer. Turn back, I will say, wow, wow, wow. That is how it was. So this infrastructure is something we are pleading with the government. They should just, and the traffic for now is reducing as the day goes by, because every good road coming that way is making that place so nice and beautiful that it attracts investors, it makes property value high, and many others. Thank you.
All right, Oji, let's look at the issue of regulation of this sector, and then the influx of scammers or quacks. You know, people claim to be real estate, investors, and they are not. You've had reports or stories of people, fleecing people, collecting money from different, people, and then nothing is being delivered. Now, how do you check this development? First of all, I would like you to talk about your experience with these people, and then how this trend could be checkmated.
Okay. Now, talking about people collecting money without delivering, first thing I will say something. There is something about due diligence, yeah, thorough due diligence. Now, as an investor, take it or leave it. The same way, native doctor these days wear suits. So there are some people that just wake up in the morning like, let me use the word omonile. And because they discover or they notice that real estate has transit to a new realm, so they rebrand and repackage themselves, and you hear names like so and Co Limited. Now, once they repackage themselves, all they need to do is to sell, and they can sell one particular land for 5 to 10 different people, eating this money and not delivering, right? So it's advisable for everyone that is about to invest or that wants to invest, or as a smart investor, to carry out a due diligence before buying that property. It is advisable, because now getting this property, like we all know, real estate is beautiful. We all know that. But a lot of scammers are out there who claims to be CEO, claims to be agent and the rest. And sometimes I will not blame the company owners, because then, we have a middleman like the agents, and we have the realtors. Some of them fail to go for proper training or learning to understand what to push out before joining or before pushing out. And some of them are just after the commission they will get. So if the investor who is coming in do a proper due diligence by involving a lawyer, a surveyor, and a realtor, to make sure before buying this property they confirm it, because there's some property you cannot buy. There's some property that is already committed. You can't just buy a property that is committed. And most times, these so-called omonile, they can go as far as selling committed land to you. And how do you expect such kind of land to be delivered? So 3 years, no allocation, 4 years. And now I need to say this to get it clear. Now, there are some real estate company that they sell land. Now, in the space of 1 year, you might not get allocation. Now, reasons is because most of this company, maybe they acquire 500 plots of land. And because it's for business purpose, right? Now, acquiring 5 plots of land, let's say 500 plots of land. And, you know, when you want to do allocation, you need to do general clearing and map out before you now start allocating people. Now, most of these people, they cannot sell 50 plots and do general clearing, then allocate people. Because it's for business purpose, and most of this land are their virgin land. Development has not even come inside of that place. So for them to do clearing, and this clearing we are talking about requires a lot of money. Sometimes it might cost you 20 million and thereabout. So for them to do clearing, and after clearing, they start allocating. Maybe they sell 10 plots or 20 plots, and the person that is buying, because the realtor failed to address or tell the person, okay, in 6 months' time, you'll get your allocation because of where you're buying, because of your choice location. Now, you know, most of this land that you buy cheap or affordable, most of them are virgin land. They are in an undeveloped place. And any land you're buying from undeveloped place, sometimes you don't just need, or you're too rushed in getting allocation, instant allocation. Now, if you want instant allocation, you can go for land with CFO and government consent, land that is already in a developed place, that as you're buying it, they are pointing that this is your land. Now, you cannot go inside like that. Ibejuleke has is now talking about Ibejuleke inside, where you see a company owns about, let's say, 500 to 1,000 plots of land, and they need to sell to some extent before they start allocating people. They cannot sell 10 plots out of 1,000 plots, and you're expecting them to do clearance and allocate people, because there's a layout to that estate. So for you not to be scammed as an investor, all you need to do is to carry out your due diligence, involve your surveyor and your lawyer. Your surveyor take the coordinates of that land, chart it to see if it's free or not. Then from there, you move ahead. So if the land is free, you're good to go. That is why when buying properties, you need to know the company you're dealing with. It's very important. It's very important. Thank you very much.
All right, Bimi has joined us again. Thank you for rejoining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, we've been having discussions around infrastructure and regulation as it concerns real estate development. But let me ask, how do real estate developers align with government city plan? We have master plans for several cities in Nigeria. But what we find that sometimes there's haphazard development ongoing. And as developers move into new areas, how do they ensure that their development plan aligns with government's city plan, so that there is a very structured development where provision for certain amenities are made?
Okay, thank you. Well, that is a big challenge because particularly uncharted areas, you know, new developed areas, that is a big challenge. And, you know, because we don't have a coordinated, you know, town planning system, that has always been an issue. And that is also part of the major problem with drainage, even in Lagos. If you're aware, you will understand that half of Lekki Phase 1 is in serious, you know, water issue, water problem once it rains. VGC, there's a big problem. I mean, so it's all about all this problem, because if there is a well laid out government, you know, plan for certain areas. I mean, for example, now in Ibejuleke, people are sand filling, people are doing their own thing by themselves. So there is no way that there will not be complications, you know, you're going to do your own drainage, you're going to do your own road, you're going to so
the petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
really.
Be done to ensure that this is done.
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
In terms of the real estate platforms,
Gbemi, yeah, is very enthusiastic about issues around the real estate because he's a player in that field, and so you just heard him talking about real estate issues. Apologies for that mix-up. We'll continue the conversation right now.
In progress. I don't know which other ones are very, very, good.
So I have my question to ask you right now, but I will do that quickly after the break. So let's go on a quick break, and then I return to ask Femi what city his interest will be in, even as he's listening to Gbemi and Audrey talk about the hotspots when it comes to real estate purchasing. Or let me go ahead and just find it out because I'm eager to know.
You know, I'm this person who is very smart at taking advantage of opportunities. Yes. You heard Audrey. He talked about the south or the eastern part of Nigeria. It particularly talked about Asaba, you know, where there's preference for hotel business and all that, and people are investing in that. And truly, that's the reality, and that's of interest to me. In fact, recently I discovered in some remote areas where you have family lands, family houses that have been abandoned for years, you know, you have a trend now where people in diaspora or children who are related to that family who are not in Nigeria are coming home now to buy it over and then invest on it to hotels, you know. So hotel business is booming when it comes to that area. And since Audrey has given me tips.
You know what came to my mind? I can just imagine some persons visiting their grandparents right now. I'm asking, do you have landed property that we don't know of that we can actually use, convert to uses like that? But that's just on the light side. But we were talking to Audrey about developers aligning their plans or their development plans to with government's own plan, because we want development, yes, and that's what real estate is ensuring that is happening now, because areas that ordinarily it would have taken quite a long time before they are developed. But because of the activities of real estate developers, they are opening up quickly and they're developing fast, but it's still done haphazardly. We want to see that structured development where there are provisions for the basic amenities that the area would need. You find people buying lands and building houses. There are no provisions for markets. There are no provisions for schools within that environment. There are no provisions for hospitals. And so it still looks the same. But in new areas, I think it should be a chance to correct what was not done properly with the planning of the cities so that everything is well structured. He was talking about the challenges with that before.
I think the greatest challenge with that is population, you know, based on the fact that you have that kind of youth population in Nigeria. So there's this huge demand for this service. And once there is demand, you know, the service providers, they're under pressure to see how they can meet up with these demands. You have people who have housing needs and they are making demands on you. So the provider or service provider will want to see a way to match that interest with what is happening presently. And here you have this clash of interest with in the interest of the state, which is sticking to the standard or the master plan. Here on the other hand, you have the service provider who wants to make money, who wants to please his client. And so this is becoming a huge challenge to strike a balance between what is expected to be done and then the services to be provided. Another issue is the fact that, it's even, look at the peculiarity of our environment. There are certain areas that are of interest now. And so people want to catch in on that, take advantage of that to make provision for their clients and provide services. But the truth remains that real estate is going to be, if I may use this word, evergreen. The services are everly going to be demanded, whether there is booming population or not, whether there is urbanization or whatever activity is taking place. The demand will always be there. And as long as the demand is always there, the service providers too will be compelled to see what they can do to move into that space.
I think a collaboration within government agencies and developers would also ensure that there is a smooth running of the plan. If there is a master plan and areas are clearly marked out, and they also come into a common planning room where the developers know, okay, on this side, if you're developing an estate, for instance, of course, the provision should be made. Yes, they tell you at the point of buying that, oh, this new estate is going to have this, is going to have that. But like you said, because of the demand on them to ensure that there are homes, they concentrate on building the homes, and then the other parts of it, which is the market, school, hospitals, those parts are just left. Maybe when there are more demand, they are sold for people to build homes.
It also boils down to regulation. There are agencies, there are departments, there are ministries who are obliged to provide that responsibility to supervise. When projects are being conducted, even at the local level, the state level, at the federal level, there are agencies, federal agencies, ministries, who are in position to supervise. In fact, even some of the plans in the first place, who approved it? Who gave approval for them? The building, the construction going on wrong site or wrong location or on an unexpected location. Someone gave approval. And if that is not done, you understand, we'll keep having this issue and then going back and forth on the issue of regulation. All right. We still have we still have more time to to discuss.
Yes, I have more time already in my head. I'm mapping out where I'm going to, where my compass is going to face, because you were sharing a story with me off air about someone who made a recent investment and how much it's going to yield for the person annually. Now that's something very nice.
But one of the options or the opportunities in this kind of sector is what you call rental services, where you have an asset, you lease it, or you put it on rental services and you make money for it. And the particular case I'm talking about was someone who bought a landed property and then offer it for lease, and then she's making money annually to the tune of 7 million annually from it. And it's also another option for investors or people who wants to take advantage of the opportunities in that sector. And like our guest said, it is, when you talk about real estate, it's not limited to landed properties, or there are other aspects of it which you can take advantage of. But it's a bank of opportunities.
Yeah, if you ask me, that was a very smart move done by the person who made that investment. So you can be smart like that, or even smarter, because if you go over the show today, you find that different areas you can invest in have been talked about. All right, we have Oji and Gbemi back with us. So Gbemi, you were on a line of thought addressing the reasons why we don't find a synergy between developers' plan and government's city plan. Can you continue with your thoughts on that?
Yes. So government needs to do more on that. Yes, there's an association of real estate developers, at least in Lagos and all that, but there needs to be a coordinated, and that can only be championed by government. It's the government that will say this area is only residential, is for residential, apartment. Oh, this area is for commercial. This area is for industrial, so that we don't, continue to have all this mix of both industrial, commercial, residential. It does not show that we have a plan. That's the truth. And if the Juleki axis there's nothing like that even up to now, despite the huge expectation of real estate development in that axis. And so I think it's an opportunity to call on government, particularly, Lagos State government, to at least to see if there can be a coordinated, is it association or intervention or at least information, to have some things well laid out. So that's all I can say.
Baby, in few seconds as we wrap up, before I go to Oji, I would like you to talk about some of the policies you think government should put in place to ensure that investors are being attracted into the real estate sector in Nigeria. Quickly, in few seconds.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in terms of our forex, CBN has a lot to play, so that investors' money, they can have confidence that when their money comes in, it can go straight to the project. Because there were instances where, I mean, for them to even access their money could take several months. So all those bottlenecks, and I believe this administration is looking at that to streamline, ease of doing business, so that investors' money, and then when they want to repatriate their money, that there should not be any bottlenecks.
I would like to have your take on that, your expectation from the government to help the plight of investors in real estate.
Okay. Is it my turn? Sorry. Your network beat me up. Okay, come again, sir, come again.
What do you think government can do now to help the plight of investors who are in that sector to make their business better? What kind of intervention or policy are you expecting from the government? Quickly, in few seconds.
Okay, the government, first thing, the government should give lights, 1, good road, 2, and have this relationship with this real estate or developers, have a relationship with them. Because now, if a place is fully developed, the government still benefits from it. So if they are contributing for that place, they need to have a relationship with either the real estate company or the developers. Have a better relationship with them, because most times what the government do, they frustrate this set of people, and the investors actually don't even know that the government are the cost of most of their problem. Now, these investors might buy a property, and the owners of that property, which is the vendors, might be trying to get documents from the government. Instead of the government making it easy for them so they can do other things to make that place grow, the government will delay their documentation, they delay the things, in fact. And when, okay, for example, let me just use this as an example. Like, for example, you are processing for C of O for a particular place. Now, and the government know they have all it takes to give you that C of O, but they can stretch it in 1, 2, 3, 4 years or 5 years. And now most of these investors, when they ask question, I thought you said CFO in view. Now, why is it taking this long? Then the owner of company or developers, for example, might now will even try covering the government, but trying to, okay, this is the issue we're having on ground. Okay, it will come out very soon. And these investors lost trust. They lose their trust. So most of them are withdrawing back. Now, if they are paying for something and they say CFO in view, in the next 6 months or 1 year, the government can issue that CFO to the people or to the developers or to the real estate company. It will go a long way, and more investors will want to invest. There are people having this money. There are people who have this money for investing, but the truth is that they are scared because our system is not organized. Our system is not unique. So all we need from the government is to assist.
Very much for your submissions. We do hope that the appropriate authority have heard that and would do the best to up their game and ensure things are done timely. Thank you very much, Bimi and Audrey, for your great contributions on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this is where we draw the curtain on today's show. It's been an extraordinary show in every sense of it. Apologies for the hitches. Don't worry, tomorrow's show will be hitch-free and more exciting. You can go over today's show again when you go to our YouTube channel and watch everything. It's very, very important for you so you know where to put your hard-earned money and how they'll come back to you. I am Blessing Eiche, Vivian Oguchi, and Afreta Ambebasi are waiting to take you on a ride on Business Insight. Femi?
Yeah, we have to go now. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now. I see you tomorrow.